The 1960s was not only a watershed, but also a vital historical landmark in Africa's struggle and search for modern identity. It was a period that most colonial territories achieved or were about to achieve political independence, and also the beginning of the so-called development decade, when African countries immediately found themselves drawn into the vortex of international conferences of varying motivation, rationality, and utility, ostensibly designed not only to analyze but also to prescribe solutions to their problems. Education naturally received high priority, not only as a means by which centuries of ignorance was to be wiped out, but also the means to train and develop the skills and high-level manpower to replace the erstwhile colonial official, as well as staff the new and expanded political, administrative, social, and economic institutions. In December 1960, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa organized a conference in Khartoum, Sudan, in which, among other things, inter-African cooperation in the development of higher education was discussed. The ministers of education in newly independent African countries again met under the auspices of the UN Economic Commission for Africa in Addis Ababa in May 1961. To discuss the importance of education to economic development. During the meeting, a committee of 6 African states was asked to prepare a synthesis of educational goals, targets, and qualitative attainment during the next 25 years, decided by the African states. This became known as the 20-year Addis Ababa Plan. This meeting was followed in September 1962 by a meeting of a more specialized conference on the development of higher education in Africa, organized by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, in Tananarive, Madagascar. Heads of African institutions of higher studies taking part decided to follow this by a private meeting outside the main framework of the conference, which they did, and decided to meet at Khartoum in Sudan to consider the practical means of developing inter-university cooperation in Africa and the measures necessary for setting up an organization which would give effect to the cooperation. The first meeting of heads of African universities, held at the University of Khartoum on 16 to 19 September 1963, decided that the creation of an Association of African Universities was desirable. An interim committee was appointed and charged with 1. Drafting of a constitution for the proposed association, and 2. Convening a conference to bring the association into being under the constitution. The preparations involved 3 meetings of the interim committee. 1 meeting at Haile Selassie I University in Ethiopia on 23 to 25 July 1964, and 2 meetings at the University of Khartoum on 3rd to 4th April 1965 and on 22nd to 23rd February 1967, in addition to the informal discussion, which included frequent meetings between the chairman of the interim committee, Dr. Mohamed El Fassi, the executive vice chairman, Dr. E.N. Dafala, and other members of the committee, namely Dr. Daviston Nicole, Vice Chairman, Dr. R.F. Bafor, Sir Bernard Dibanson, Dr. C. Frank, Dr. S.A. Hussain, Dr. Kasawood Mariam, Dr. M. Mercy Ahmed, Dr. E. Njoku, and Dr. R. Weeks. Great help was rendered by Mr. D. Aiken, Executive Secretary of the International Association of Universities. Unforeseen circumstances twice delayed the holding of the founding conference, which was first arranged on invitation by the Nigerian universities at Ahmadu Bello University in Nigeria from 20 to 22 January 1966. Disruption of communications with Nigeria prevented almost all participants from reaching Zaria, and the conference was postponed. This setback was followed by a series of informal consultations and enquiries which paved the way for finally accepting an invitation by the universities of the United Arab Republic, now Egypt, to hold the conference in Alexandria, in Egypt, on 12 to 14 September 1967. But due to the aftermath of the Arab-Israeli War, the timing proved not suitable. Finally, the committee accepted an invitation by His Excellency Dr. M. El Fazi to hold a conference at Mohammed V University at Rabat, Morocco on 9 to 13 November 1967, and by the excellent facilities extended by His Excellency King Hassan II of Morocco. The founding conference was held in Rabat, and the Association of African Universities was formally inaugurated on November 12, 1967. It was attended by representatives of 34 universities out of 46 institutions of higher learning in Africa that qualified for the membership. A year after its formation, the AAU became an affiliated member of UNESCO and an associate member of the International Association of Universities. In 1969, the AAU applied for Category A observer status at meetings of the OAU, which was granted. And in 1994, to coincide with the inaugural anniversary of the AAU, the then Organization of African Unity, now African Union, declared 12 November of every year as African Universities Day in pursuant to Resolution CM/Res.1534 passed by the OAU Council of Ministers in June of that year. The African University Day has been observed and celebrated by AAU member institutions since then. The decision of the permanent location of the association's headquarters from its temporary office in Sudan was taken to the 6th meeting of the Executive Board at the University of Lagos, Nigeria, in June 1970. The offer from Ghana was chosen upon presentation by the then Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor A. Kwapon, of a formal letter from the government of Ghana indicating the facilities and immunities that would be accorded the association. In terms of numbers, the AAU has grown in membership to a current 450 plus universities. During the association's 8th General Conference in Accra in January 1993, the bylaws were changed to allow associate membership. The International Center of Insect Physiology and Ecology in Kenya became the first associate member. At the 12th General Conference in Abuja in May 2009, the Nomenclature Executive Board was changed to Governing Board, and the Executive Committee, comprising the President and the 3 Vice Presidents, was established, with the Secretary General serving as a secretary to both the Executive Committee and the Governing Board. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this has been a brief history of the apex higher education body on the continent. This is AAU, the voice of higher education in Africa.